Welcome to Chapter a Week. I'm Penny from the Shawano County Library. Today we are going to be reading Chapter 1 of Once Upon a Spine by Kate Carlisle. Lately I've resorted to stalking, not a person, but a book. For weeks now I've been visiting the book almost daily. It was a little embarrassing to continually beg the bookstore owner to let me hold it, page through it, study it. I just wanted to touch it, stroke it, and once when he wasn't looking, sniff it. But he didn't seem to mind my fixation. He's as big a book nerd as I am. The owner kept the book inside a clear, locked glass case displayed on the shop's front counter, so it was obvious he didn't want people touching it. And who could blame him? The book was exquisitely bound in a vibrant red Morocco leather. Rich gilding swirled along the spine, spelling out the title, author's name, and year of publication in fancy gold script. More gilding outlined the thick raised cords that lent gravitas to the already weighty tome. In the center of the front cover was a brightly gilded rabbit wearing a topcoat. The well-dressed creature glanced down at a watch he held at the end of a chain, and he appeared nervous, as though he might be running late for some important event. The fact that a gilded illustration could convey real emotion was pretty awesome, above and beyond the binding work. The first time I saw it, I checked the inside cover for the bookbinder and was thrilled to find the name George Bayton of London. Favored by the late Queen Mary, Bayton's bindery in Bath, England was world-renowned and was still operating to this day. I'd visited once and come away starstruck. On the back cover of the book was another elaborately raised figure in gold. An odd-looking woman wearing a crown and carrying a scepter, the Red Queen. She appeared headstrong and irate, as though she might order someone's head lopped off at any moment. The book was Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, of course. This copy was fairly hard-to-find version in excellent condition, with dark green and red marbled end papers and virtually no foxing on its clean white pages. It contained dozens of classic illustrations by the famous artist John Tenniel. The binding was tight and even, and I wanted it. My name is Brooklyn Wainwright, and I'm a bookbinder specializing in rare book restoration. I love books of all kinds, and I love my job. It was exciting to know that I could give tired, torn, droopy, bug-bitten books a brand new life that would allow them to continue to bring enjoyment for hundreds of years to come. It might have sounded boring to some, but in my career so far, I had saved dozens of treasured childhood favorites from being thrown away, rescued any number of priceless museum-quality books from being carted off to the used bookstore, and even solved a murder or two, or 10, while I was at it. Just in case you thought bookbinding sounded like a yawn fest, trust me, my life was rarely dull. This particular copy of Alice didn't need restoring, though. It was pristine. I wanted it because I had a fascination. Okay, call it an obsession with the iconic Alice and her creator, Lewis Carroll. I gazed longingly at the book on display near the front counter of Brothers Bookshop. The store was a book nerd's dream, a cozy, tomb-filled haven for people like me who were content to while away an entire day browsing the shelves in hopes of discovering the perfect little gem of a book to sink into. The shop carried both new and used books, along with all sorts of charming gifts and cards and paper goods. There were comfy chairs in every corner of the store, and a small section along one side was devoted to antiquarian books. A magazine section was located at the back of the shop. At the front, a wall of windows looked out onto the neighborhood, and from there I could see my vintage apartment building on the other side of the street. Derek Stone and I decided to walk over here to do a little book browsing on our way next door to shop for vegetables for dinner. The bookshop was part of a group of small stores located in a charming 3-story Victorian-era building across the street from us. The building, known as the Courtyard, formed a large square with 4 shops on either side. Above each shop were 2 floors with one spacious apartment on each floor. In the interior of the square was a delightful little courtyard overflowing with flowers and trees and several groupings of chairs and small tables. It was the perfect place to enjoy a cafe latte and read a book. "Hi, Eddie," I said to the bookshop owner as I inched closer to the display. "Hey, Brooklyn," Eddie Cox said without glancing up from his perch at the front counter. He knew it was me. Probably had seen me hovering nearby for the last few minutes. "I suppose you want to get another look at the book." "I do. How did you know?" He chuckled. "Just a lucky guess. Might have something to do with the fact you show up here every other day and beg to see it." All too true. But at least so far I hadn't drooled on the glass case. And here I thought I was being so subtle. Subtle, right. Still chuckling, he opened the drawer beneath the cash register, pulled out a small set of keys. I had known Eddie Cox and his brother-in-law, Terrence Payton, for almost 4 years, ever since I moved in across the street from Brothers Bookshop. The two men owned the charming shop together, and yes, I was there almost every other day because, you know, books. Eddie carefully handed me the Alice, and it was all I could do not to clutch it to my chest in excitement. Instead, I put it down on the counter, ran my finger across the smooth leather cover. Eddie raised an eyebrow. "I don't do this for everyone, you know." "I know you don't, and I really appreciate you doing it for me. I'll be careful." "I know you will," he winked at me. "Otherwise, I wouldn't allow it anywhere near your greedy little hands." With a quick laugh, I scanned the store and spied Derek at the end of the middle aisle, where the latest mysteries and thrillers were displayed. He appeared to be involved in one particular book, so I knew I had a few minutes to enjoy the Alice. I opened it slowly, turning as always to the title page where the publication date was posted, 1866. This copy was considered a first edition, but actually it wasn't. The original version of the book had been published the year before in 1865, but those books had been taken off the market by Lewis Carroll when his illustrator John Tenniel stated that the quality of his drawings had been poorly reproduced. That earlier 1865 version was known as the Suppressed Alice, or the 65 Alice. All of those books were returned to the publisher, except for 50 author copies that Lewis Carroll had kept for himself. Eventually, most of those author copies had ended up in others' hands. Very few remained on the market today, and any that did were considered beyond rare. One had been auctioned off recently for almost $2 million. I would probably never get my hands on such a rare treasure as that, but I was perfectly happy with the one I currently held in my hands. This book was as fine as any I had ever seen. "Hello, Brooklyn." I turned and saw Eddie's brother-in-law standing nearby. "Terrence, hello." "Is he going to sell you the book this time?" Terrence asked with a twinkle in his eye. "I don't know." Glancing at Eddie, I bit back a smile. I knew he wouldn't sell it to me since I tried to buy it a few hundred times before, but no harm in trying again. "What about it, Eddie? Will you sell me the book?" "Never," Eddie insisted as always. Then he added, "It was a gift from a special friend." "Wow, he never mentioned that before." I gazed at the book in my hand. "Must be a nice friend." "I had a book like that, just like that, but someone stole it from me." "Are you kidding? Did I look as confused as I felt? You had a copy of the same book?" Eddie barely suppressed an eye roll. "Terrence always claims that, but where's the proof?" "I said it was stolen." Terrence's eyes narrowed in on Eddie, and suddenly I wondered if he suspected his own brother-in-law had taken the book from him. "That's why I keep mine locked inside the shatterproof case, right here in plain sight, where everyone can see it, which means no one can steal it. I'm no fool." To find out the rest of the story, check out Once Upon a Time, A Spying by Kate Carlisle. Thank you for joining us today.